Alice Talks Football, and today's video is ranking / tier listing every Manchester United player since the restart. So we're going to be going through the Manchester United players and what they've done between the Tottenham game and the Leicester game since the restart, and ranking them in a tier list on how good they've been since then. So the ranks in the tier list are world class, great, average, poor and useless. Now just remember, this is not based off the whole season, this is just based off what they've done since the restart. If you want me to do a tier list after Europa League's ended on a whole season review, ranking players throughout the whole season, hit that like button. And also subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football so you don't miss daily Manchester United related content from me. I do post-match reactions, match previews, transfer news. This week I'm going to be coming out with all the latest things we need to know on the Gabriel to Manchester United news, and everything we need to know about Jadon Sancho, what's going on with Jadon Sancho, when is it likely to happen. So smash that like button if you're excited to see those videos in the coming days. Now let's get straight into my tier list, and first things first, we're starting off with Fred. Now Fred, up there, player of the season, been brilliant, but since the restart he's never really got a run in the team because of Pogba. Pogba obviously been really good. And when Fred has had minutes, he's not done anything special. He's not been particularly bad, but he's not been good. He's not been good enough to get in the team. And we know that Fred is a momentum player, so although he's been really good before the restart, he didn't get his momentum going on the restart, so I'm going to have to put him in poor because of that. Luke Shaw. Now Luke Shaw's been one of our best players since the restart. I don't think he's quite up there in world class, you know, he hasn't got those goals or assists, but he's been a crucial player, so I'm going to have to put Luke Shaw in great. You know, when he got injured, we saw how important he was. And Rashford without Luke Shaw does not look the same either. Jesse Lingard. Now, I kind of want to put him in poor because he played against Norwich, he was awful. But then he had 2 subs appearances. And when he came on as a sub, he was actually quite good because he runs and runs. And he actually got that goal versus Leicester. And I'm very happy that he scored. Poor season from Jesse Lingard. But because he had 2 decent sub performances, because he scored against Leicester, I'm going to put him in average, which is very, very nice because there's going to be a lot of other players in average that have been probably better than him in the restart. But because he scored against Leicester, I'm going to put him in average because when he came on as a sub, he did his job. But yeah, he's not been particularly good, but we're being nice with him on that one. Bruno Fernandes, he's got to go in world class, been absolutely world class. He's the sole reason we got 3rd place. He started off the break on fire, literally the best player in the league for like the first couple games back since the break. The last 2 or 3 games, he's not looked at his best, he's looked exhausted. But the thing about Bruno Fernandes is he had a really poor game against Leicester. Then he did this ball to Martial. Martial wins a penalty. Bruno Fernandes goes and puts away the penalty. So in a bad game, he still can get us the win. Like, he'll be poor, but then he'll come up with a goal that gets us the win, that gets us 3rd place. So we have to put Bruno Fernandes in world class. And Anthony Martial, arguably been our best player since the restart. He's got to go in world class. He scored some brilliant goals. He's been in the right place at the right time, scored some proper number 9 goals. He's created goals. He's got assists. He's got goals in him. Martial's been world class. He's got to be in world class too. For me, best player since the break, Anthony Martial. Andreas Pereira, I've got to put him in useless because I think he's only played about 20 minutes and he hasn't really done anything. He's not been bad because he's not really played, but he's just got to go in useless. Marcus Rashford, now he's had some great games and he's had some poor games. So I kind of want to put him in average, but then I see that Jesse Lingard's in average and I'm like, Marcus Rashford's been a lot better than Jesse Lingard. I think he's got 3 goals and 3 assists. But then for Rashford's standards, he was on fire before his injury. He came back, he was a bit rusty, and then he looked really good for 2 games, and then he's a bit rusty again. I'm going to put Marcus Rashford in average, although he's sort of edging between average and good, if you know what I mean. Like, I think he's actually been pretty good, but because he's had some poor performances, you know, whereas Bruno and Pogba were really good and then they dropped off. Rashford dropped off, had a good performance, dropped off. So I'm going to put Rashford in average just because of his standards. You know, he's had some good games, but he's had some really poor games. Victor Lindelof, I'm going to put him in great. I think he's actually been our best centre-back since the restart. I think he's been better than Harry Maguire, who was man of the match versus Leicester for me. Statistically, Victor Lindelof is the only defender in the league that hasn't been dribbled past this season. I think he's actually the best defender at reading the game, or like he's equal with Van Dijk. It's just that obviously his pace and his aerial duels let him down, but like in terms of reading the game and tackling, Victor Lindelof has actually statistically been like the best centre-back in the league this season. I think he's a very underrated player and I think he's been great since the break. Now Scott McTominay, I love Scott McTominay, but he's just not been good. He was up there for player of the season in October, November, December. I think he won 2 back-to-back player of the month awards for Manchester United, but he's not really got on the team since the break. He can't really do the same job Matic can do. Yeah, he's not been great. I've got to put him in poor. Eric Bailly, again, poor, not really played. When he has played, he hasn't been particularly good. He's got to go in poor. Dan James, some people say useless, but you know what? He's a 22-year-old from the Championship. Give him a break. He's not had much of a run in. You know, he made some good runs against Chelsea. He kept trying. He came on as a sub in a few games. Looked like he could score, but his finishing wasn't quite there. I'm going to put him in poor, but I don't think he's been useless. I think the Dan James hate needs to calm down. You know, £15 million signing from the Championship, guys. Just lay off him a bit. Timothy Fosu-Mensah, a player that I didn't even think would play this season. But you know what? He's played, 2 or 3 games, and he's been alright. I'm going to put him in average, because he hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been good. He's done the job, and considering he hasn't played in over a year, fair play to him. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, arguably our player of the season. He's had some decent games since the restart. He's been very good defensively, apart from the odd 1 or 2 games. Going forward, doesn't offer that much. Did get an assist, I think, in that Bournemouth game. You know, looked quite good in the first couple of games back, but maybe it's tiredness, fatigue. Aaron Wan-Bissaka has dropped off a bit, but he's still up there for player of the season. But I'm going to put him in average because of how good he was before the break. He was world class before the break, and then he came back and he just done like 6 out of 10 jobs. So I'm going to put Aaron Wan-Bissaka in average. Diego Dalot, he's got to go in useless. I like Diego Dalot, but I'm pretty sure his Manchester United career is over. He trusted Timothy Fosu-Mensah over Dalot, and Timothy Fosu-Mensah had missed over like a year of the season. Dalot played against Norwich and he was pretty poor. I think the only game he's played this season since the restart is against Norwich, and he was awful. So he's got to go in useless, Diego Dalot. I have to say it, he's not been good. I'd like to see more of him, but this season he's been poor. Mason Greenwood, for an 18-year-old, what he's done, the goals he's scored, I think he scored like 5 goals in like 8 games since the restart. He's got 10 goals in the Premier League this season, 17 goals in all competitions. I know it's not based off the whole season, but since the restart, Mason Greenwood has really shone. He's just been brilliant. He's got to go in world class. He's scored some crucial goals. You know, he's just been a really good player. Looks like a goal threat. He's got to go in world class. He's been one of our best players since the restart and won July Player of the Month. Brandon Williams. Now, Brandon Williams overall has had a pretty decent season coming through and playing the games he's played, but there's a difference in quality between him and Luke Shaw, and I think we really noticed that. I don't think he was particularly bad, but I don't think he was good either. I think he had a few good games around December time, and compared to that, he hasn't been as good since the break. He hasn't really got going, so I'm going to put him in poor. I don't think he's been useless. You could argue average because, you know, people slate him a lot, and for his age, he's done a decent job. But I'm going to put Brandon Williams in poor. Sergio Romero, again, I'm going to put him in poor. The only game he really played was against Norwich, and I thought he made a mistake in that game. I don't think he was particularly good. Juan Mata, I'm going to put him in useless because, you know, he signed a new 3-year deal, but where has he been since the break? I don't think we put him on as a sub once. I think the only time he played was against Norwich, and he was pretty useless. So I love Juan Mata, but what has he done? What has he offered? De Gea, and I would have put David De Gea in average, but his last 2 performances he's looked very shaky. That Chelsea performance, absolutely awful. You know, he had a really good performance against Crystal Palace, man of the match, and he goes and makes this mistake versus Chelsea. For his standards, you've got to put David De Gea in poor. Odion Ighalo hasn't really done much, put him in poor. Nemanja Matic, been a really important player. McTominay and Fred can't get a look in because of how good Matic has been. He's got being great. He had 1 or 2 iffy games where he was a bit slow on the ball, but when Matic plays well, the team plays so much better. He's such an important piece. When Matic is poor, the team plays poor, but as soon as Matic starts moving the ball quickly, that Bruno and Pogba play better, so Matic has got to be in great. Pogba dropped off a bit towards the end of the season, but McTominay and Fred have barely been able to get a look in because of how good he's been. He won that penalty against Tottenham, single-handedly got us the draw against Tottenham, made us look like we were going to win, has been very important, dropped off a bit lately, but he's got to go in great. You could argue maybe Rashford should go in great because, you know, Rashford and Pogba, they've had some poor performances and some good performances, but I think Pogba's just been a bit more important. And last but not least, Harry Maguire. I think he's been okay. I'm going to put him in average. I think Victor Lindelof's been better. Average for Harry Maguire. So that's my Manchester United player ratings since the break. Which ones do you agree with? Which ones do you disagree with? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you have not already, please smash that like button. Subscribe down below if you're new. Share this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Manchester United tier list.